Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Tonight you are lucky. We only have 2 agendas we'll be following instead of 3 or 4, which is the usual. We have a committee of the whole agenda we're going to be following this evening, and that's followed by our council meeting. So with that, I'm going to call upon Councillor Bill Steele for the invocation, and we're going to follow that with Joe Longfellow with the national anthem. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Worship. Lord, we are meeting today to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being our source of guidance today. Amen.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée de plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Joel. Well done as always.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Madam Clerk, are there any addendum items this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. None this evening.
Thank you, Ashley. Members of Council, if I can have a motion to confirm the agenda, please. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Bodner, are there any questions or comments to that? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest this evening? With none, move on to items requiring a separate discussion. Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 9.
Further items, members? Councillor Bodner.
Item 10, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Danch.
9 as well. So
You're good? So you want to speak on that too, Frank? Further items, members? Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 1.
Further items, members? If I can have a motion to receive the remainder of the items? Councillor Steele, Councillor Desmarais. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you.
Just coming up in the other
You read my mind. Did you just hear? Good. I am going to move to delegations before presentations because the person that's going to be accepting a presentation is not yet here. So we're going to start off with David Alexander. David is the Executive Director of the Niagara Workforce Planning Board, and he's going to be speaking to us this evening regarding the employment trends in the Niagara region and an overview of a few of the trends that are happening within the city of Port Colborne. David, as always, welcome. Watch your head to that screen. It does have a tendency to jump out at you, but welcome, David. Great to have you out.
thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, councillors, staff, and members in attendance. So we've provided you with a slide deck that will take up about an hour for us to go through in a workshop. We're going to provide you with an overview of the first third of it, but that we would hope that you will reflect on the remainder of the slide deck and how looking at workforce issues stitch into some of the deliberations that you're going to have. And we would be willing to come back and doing a further in-depth workshop with council and or staff as you look at how some of the population dynamics and some of the workforce issues stitch into your reports and your initiatives. With me tonight is Hugo Cheshire and Adam Durant, both research associates with the Niagara Workforce Planning Board. I'll be doing the presentation, but during questions, I may refer to Adam and or Hugo to respond, because they have some of the technical expertise with some of the questions that you may have. The Workforce Planning Board provides labor market information, but we also do research on the local economy from a labor market perspective. And we would like to think that we are one of the unique assets in Niagara, because we do have a very dynamic board which is made up of labor, business, community, and government. We draw our resources from a wide variety of services and sources. We look at StatsCan data, but we also are going to describe an initiative as well that is emerging, that we are going to be rolling out. And we feel that it's going to dovetail nicely with what we think is your excellent work on your business retention and expansion initiative. We really commend the City of Port Colborne for its leadership, and not just in terms of applying the BR&E tool, but the additional research that you're doing, because we think that from what we're seeing across the province, it is best practice in being able to engage the community and your local schools in this particular initiative. So I just wanted to describe a few of the things that we are seeing in terms of some of the recent historical trends, and then describe a couple of initiatives or areas where you would be looking at forecasting and some of the risks that may be entailed there. And with regards to the slide here, you can see that our economy is having a number of challenges, and this is Port Colborne's numbers. What you see here is that there's what we may be seeing over the next year or so is a slight uptick in some of the employment numbers. But again, we would want to make sure that we work collaboratively together amongst the different institutions and organizations to make sure that those numbers are right, and that we're supporting the employers, especially the private sector employers in the area, that they can look at fitting these numbers into their strategic plans and using the evidence to inform labor market and hiring decisions. This is the slide that looks at the top 10 occupations in Port Colborne. These are not necessarily occupations that are here in Port Colborne, but as far as we know with the data that we have access to, is that this are the people who are working in Port Colborne, living in Port Colborne, and they work elsewhere for the most part in the Niagara region. And some of the highlights that I can show here is the top 3 occupations: assisting occupations in health services, motor vehicle and transit drivers, secondary and elementary school teachers. These are the top 3 occupations that are of people who are living here in the city, and then the other 7. We can provide you with a lot more detail on that in terms of what the statistical evidence is, and we'd be able to show you some of the things that, in contrast in other regions, about what they're doing to support these kinds of employees, and be able to work with you to look at other programs and initiatives that would support the development of jobs. You'll be able to look at average hourly income. The nurse supervisors, registered nurses, and secondary and elementary school teachers, both public sector jobs, are in the $35 an hour range. And at the other end of the scale, of course, in the service sector area, you've got food counter attendants, kitchen helpers, retail salespersons, sales clerks, and cashiers. Both, all those 3 occupations are in the minimum wage to a few dollars above minimum wage. So that needs to be a concern out of all of us in terms of raising the level of employment income in those particular occupations. In looking at the industries in Port Colborne, we actually look at Port Colborne situation, plus contrast that to a number of other situations in other local municipalities across Niagara. And this is fairly typical, but we look at this as Port Colborne's profile is quite good. For example, primary metal manufacturing, Port Colborne exceeds the provincial average in terms of companies and in this particular area. So that is a strength in the city of Port Colborne. You also look at nursing residential care as the first column there. That again is a particular strength featured in the city of Port Colborne. And then as we look at some of this information and as you evolve your business retention and expansion plans, we can look at how best we interpret this data to look at factoring that into some of the initiatives that you're doing. And on the right, you see that there's the average income here in some of these industries. You'd be able to look at annual salary and the kinds of occupations as well, looking at this slide and the previous slide. You're looking at relevant data that looks at the health of your local economy. Look at $79.80 out of every $100 in income is considered market income. And the average in Ontario is $87.70. So there's a bit of a gap there that we would want to be able to consider as we look at furthering economic development initiatives. 12.5% of incomes are from retirement pensions and superannuation annuities, whereas the average in Ontario is 7%. So that informs the kind of population that you would tend to have here in Port Colborne. We do know that the average age is higher than the rest of the province, of course. And then the average earnings in 2012 were $39,700, and that is 86% of the national average. So we can provide you with some of these numbers, and you'd be able to use these as part of your planning to look at economic development targets, and this would be something that you'd be able to use in strengthening the local economy. The other component that I wanted to touch on with you tonight is with regards to the region's economic or demographic challenge, and I want us to go through some number of these slides, and we can go back to 1996, and you look at kind of the David Foote boom bust echo population pyramid, and let me just click through some of these, and you'll be able to see that some of the population issues that we're going to be able to have to come to grips with as we look at some of the longer term planning issues that are facing our communities in Niagara. So this is 1996, and you can see the baby boomer bulge there. 2001, 2006, and you can start to see the echo of the baby boom generation there. 2011, a 2016 projection, 2021, and 2026. And the information to take away from something like this is that this is a long-term connection with our local economy, because we want to be able to look at population and the health of the local economy and the workforce. I know your planning staff has access to this data, and some of this information will be really informative of some of the issues, opportunities, and challenges that you will be faced with as a community. And this is something that, through the power of good partnerships, that's how we're going to be able to tackle something like this. We will be dealing with an older population. We'll be dealing with a younger population that perhaps needs more resources and support in order to have higher incomes and buy houses. But demographically, we're going to have to collectively, not just Port Colborne, but Niagara, have to come to terms with some of these particular issues. And finally, when you overlay Niagara's population with that of the province of Ontario, we're not unique here. The province is facing some of these issues as well. So we're going to have to tap into some provincial-wide networks and initiatives to look at some of these issues that are informed through being able just to measure some of the population dynamics. Finally, I want to be able to leave you with this, is that as part of your BR&E work, one of the initiatives that we're working on and we're being asked to deliver by the province is something called Employer One, which is a demand survey of local employers, what their hiring needs are, and a number of other issues. we've been, the unique issue, the unique opportunity here is that you're already working on a BRE program where a number of the questions that are asked in there do refer to some of the work we're going to be doing with Employer One. And finally, one more point to the final note here is that we do enjoy a really good working relationship with Port Cares and the employment services there. We think that, and we would want to encourage more relationship and work with Port Cares, with which we all know across Niagara is a leading local institution. So we'd be happy to answer any of your questions, and we would love to come back and maybe perhaps in a different setting, we can get into some of the deeper details of some of the research work that we do.
Thank you, David. Well done. Members of council, any questions or comments? No questions or comments? David, thank you. Well done.
Okay, thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
If I can now call upon Nancy Selvage and Laura Ann Morris and Melissa Witherspoon regarding the Fresh Air Fund organization and a request for proclamation of the Fresh Air Fund Day, which, by the way, is on tonight's agenda. So you're good to go on that. But ladies, welcome. It's great to have you out tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Badaway, councillors. It's our pleasure, and we really appreciate being invited to speak here today. As Mayor Badaway mentioned, we have requested and are going to have Wednesday, March 20th, proclaimed Fresh Air Fund Day. And so our purpose for being here today is to give you a little information, maybe inform you or update you about what the Fresh Air Fund is all about and why it's so special in our city. I'm Nancy Selvage. I'm the chairperson for Port Colborne. To my left is Laura Ann Morris. She's the fund representative for all of the South Niagara, and she lives here in Port Colborne. And Melissa Witherspoon on my other side is the co-chair. It is my pleasure to tell you about the Fresh Air Fund. It is an independent, not-for-profit agency. It provides free summer vacations and has, to this point, to over 1.7 million New York City children from low-income communities, and this has been going on since 1877. Its history explains its name. In 1877, tuberculosis was running rampant in New York City, affecting, of course, children who lived in overcrowded tenements. A minister from rural Pennsylvania asked his congregation to provide country vacations by volunteering to become host families for these children, providing them some fresh air, which was considered at that time the cure for all respiratory ailments. In the 136 years since this simple gesture of human kindness, the Fresh Air Fund has grown, with families in 13 states in the U.S. Northeast and in the Niagara region in Canada, opening their homes to these children. For the past several decades, Port Colborne has been part of this wonderful program and has become a friendly town. And that's how we refer to participants in the Fresh Air program. Here's how it works today. First, I want to tell you about the kids. Children from low-income families in New York City can apply to this program through the more than 90 social services and community organizations. These children are 6 to 12 years old on their first visit to Friendly Town and will stay 1 or 2 weeks. 65% of all children will be reinvited by their host families year after year and can continue with the program through age 18. These are very brave children, supported by family members and caregivers who see the value in allowing these kids to leave the inner city and experience a different sort of life. Recently, we've had the pleasure, as we do every year when we travel to New York for our Fresh Air conferences, of listening to young people, young men and women in their 20s, talking about how this program has changed their lives. And I remember very clearly one of the past participants saying that the experience as a Fresh Air child showed him that he had choices in life. And this is just one of the benefits of the program. Now I'd like to tell you about the volunteer host families these children visit. There is no typical host family. They're married couples with or without kids, single parent families, grandparents, and single people. But what they all have in common is a desire to share their home with inner city youngsters for 1 or 2 weeks in the summer. Each friendly town is supervised by a committee of volunteer leaders who interview prospective families, visiting their homes and checking personal references. The application process helps to match up families and children appropriately according to age, gender, likes and dislikes, ensuring that, for example, a very physically active child is matched up with an active family. There are no financial requirements for hosting a Fresh Air child, and host families are not paid. They are invited to share their New York child and the experiences of family life day to day. As a Fresh Air host mother for the last 7 years, I can tell you that the most fun and satisfying times we have shared are things like walking the dogs, going to the beach, getting ice cream cones, just being outside. For most of these kids, playing outside is not a safe option at home. As I mentioned, Port Colborne has been involved in the Fresh Air Fund for a long time. Last summer, 16 children visited Port Colborne homes for 1 or 2 weeks during July and August. The success of this program depends heavily on support from the community, and as well as informing you about what the Fresh Air Fund is, my message today is not directed just at those who might consider becoming Fresh Air families. There are other ways to give these kids a wonderful Port Colborne experience. Businesses and organizations can offer these kids and their host families free admission or reduced rates for activities that they might enjoy or underwrite expenses, helping us to truly make this a friendly town. We're so grateful to the Lions Club, who give us use of their community hall every year for the arrival and departure of these kids traveling to and from New York by bus. So whether you want to know more about becoming a host family or you have the ability to help us give these children an even better Port Colborne experience, now's the time to be thinking of it. We love answering questions about this program and welcome people to contact us. And information can be found through freshair.org. Before I finish, I'd just like to read 4 different testimonials from families, Fresh Air families, who I invited to let me know so that I could let you know what this experience means to them. So here's the first one. This will be our 3rd year hosting with Fresh Air Fund. Personally, some of our best memories are childhood summers. Being involved in the program allows us to provide summertime fun, new experiences, friendships, and memories to a special little boy from Brooklyn. The next family says, the reason we decided to take a Fresh Air child was that our son never knew what it was like not to be able to just come and go and do things with no worries, and that it would be nice to see what it's like to have a brother. We've been doing this for 4 years now, and they look forward to it every year. They both call each other foster brothers. This has opened our eyes to how lucky we are from where we live. The next family says, the reason we have participated in the Fresh Air Fund program over the last 10 years is to be able to give back a little to someone who may not be as fortunate as our family, to live in such a great place and have access to so much. We've been privileged to host 2 different children over the years, and we consider each one of them to be an extension of our family. Through these kids, our whole family have come to appreciate much more how lucky we are to have everything we do. Through the eyes of these children, we have come to view everything in a different way. It takes such a small amount of time and love to make a difference in their life and open their eyes to new opportunities. And the final one is, the reason we became a Fresh Air Fund host family was to give a child from New York City a vacation away from the inner city to our home in the country, to create a bond and years of memories with our children, and to teach them how children from New York City's lives are very different from their own lives. Over the years of hosting, you come to see little things like riding a bike for the first time, learning to swim, playing soccer on a team, or seeing all those stars so clear in the summer night sky that's not a privilege for these children. This will be the 8th year we have hosted the same child. She was just 5 when we first came to visit, but her and her family are now part of our family, not just for her visit in the summer, but all year long, and we would not have it any other way or change anything. For anyone who has extra time and love to share, this is a very worthwhile program that could change a child's life forever. Again, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Nancy. Well done.
Thank you.
And to Laura Ann and Melissa as well, thank you for being here this evening. Members of council, are there any questions or comments? What are you smoking at?
Well, we were part of that 1 year. It was really good.
Yeah.
So I heard, yeah.
Yeah.
We taught them to swim because when I pulled them out of the bottom of my pool, was a single that he couldn't swim. By the time he left, he learned to swim, and Aubrey was his name. It was a great program.
Great, thank you, Frank. Members of council, any further questions or comments? Nancy, once again, well done, and make sure you bring them back to City Hall too, eh?
I will. They
it's a
really,
real
yeah,
treat.
they enjoy that.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
guys. Great job. If I can now call upon Ellis Katzoff, the Chief Executive Officer of the Passtone Mental Health Organization. He's going to speak to us today about the new Passtone Mental Health building and, of course, the expansion that building is bringing on with it. Ellis, welcome again.
Thank you, Mayor, Councillors. It's a pleasure to be back again. This evening I have a board member from our agency and a board member from our foundation, and the three of us are going to share the presentation. So I'm going to ask April Cotton to start off. Thank you.
April, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. My name is April Cotton. I am a board member with Passtone Mental Health, and I'm here tonight along with Roseanne Marsh, a member of Passtone Foundation's Board of Directors, and Ellis Katzoff, Passtone's CEO. We want to tell you about Passtone Mental Health, our Mending Children's Mind campaign, and the 2014 Hope Awards. Passtone Mental Health is the only accredited provider of mental health treatment for children, youth, and families in Niagara. We offer a range of mental health programs delivered by highly trained staff and volunteers. Working collaboratively with numerous partners, Passtone has helped 7,400 children, youth, and parents last year. Did you know that 1 out of 5 children will struggle with their mental health? The most common disorders that children face are depression, anxiety, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The good news is that treatment works, and 85% of children will feel better at the completion of their treatment. In fact, most children feel better in less than 15 sessions. Last year, 5%, or 368 of the children, youth, and parents who were helped by Passtone were from Port Colborne. These children and families are feeling better and doing better today because of the expert treatment they received at Passtone. 6 neighborhood offices across the region make it easier for families to access help. The neighborhood office in Port Colborne is in the Port Cares office. I would now like to introduce Ellis again.
Thanks, April. Good evening again. I've talked to you before about children, mental health, stigma. Last year I focused a lot on stigma and the importance of overcoming stigma so kids will reach out for help. No child should go without mental health treatment they deserve and desperately need. That's why Passtone and our foundation exist. Together, we have come up with an exciting plan, a plan that will make it possible for 400 more children each year to receive mental health treatment, above and beyond government funding. That's almost a 10% increase in the services we will provide a year and a half from now. The plan starts with generating more revenue to serve more kids. How are we going to do that? Well, after careful consideration and study, it became obvious that Passtone must invest in owned property rather than continuing to spend our available resources on leasing someone else's property. This proactive plan of our community, for our community, includes building a state-of-the-art treatment facility to expand and enhance our capacity to serve more kids. This increased space will also provide a sustainable revenue stream to ensure long-term sustainability. We are building a 50,000 square foot building with 2 wings. The Passtone wing, 30,000 square feet, will be a state-of-the-art children's mental health treatment facility. The community wing will occupy the remaining 20,000 square feet and will exist to generate revenue for serving more kids. This revenue will make it possible, as I said earlier, to service an additional 400 children, youth, and families who desperately need treatment. After extensive search, the perfect piece of property has been purchased just west of the new hospital in St. Catharines. If you join me now on the screen, I will show you some renderings of the new home for children's mental health treatment. There is the south-looking perspective that's looking towards road that has been built right now. It runs parallel to 4th Avenue, and it's called Pastone Way. And that would be the entrance to the building. We will create a setting, as you can see by the design of the building, where children, youth, and families will feel welcome and relaxed at a time when they're experiencing unbearable stress. We spent a lot of time designing a building that does not feel like an office building. Treatment rooms will be specially designed to meet the individual requirements of youngsters and unique needs. If you can go to the second slide. This is from the north side of the building. So on the left, you'll see 4th Avenue. If you continued down that road, you'd end up at the hospital in 2 minutes. And also 3rd Street is on the right-hand side of it. Treatment rooms will be specially designed to meet individual requirements of youngsters with unique needs. The room layout, lighting, color schemes, building materials have all been specially chosen to make treatment more effective and less stressful for children and families. And the final picture, please. That's just another perspective. You're seeing on the left-hand side is the community wing. That 2-story community wing will allow other community agencies to locate with Pastone to take advantage of lower costs for them due to shared communal meeting rooms, boardroom, staff room, office supports, printers, and internet connections. The foundation has set a fundraising goal of $5 million. We were fortunate. Early on in the campaign, the Branscombe Family Foundation launched our campaign with a lead gift of $1 million. To recognize this investment in Niagara's children, the entire complex will be called the Branscombe Mental Health Center. You may have noticed in the news last week an exciting announcement. Walker Industries has also pledged a $1 million to support this crucial project for Niagara's children. For this significant contribution, the Pastone Wing, the 3-story building that you're looking at on the screen that's facing us directly, will be named the Walker Industries Mental Health Wing. To date, $3.5 million has already been raised and pledged. It is still early in our campaign, and we are so thrilled by the amazing support Niagara has given its children, youth, and families through their generous donations to our Mending Children's Mind campaign. Now, I know we only have 10 minutes, and we'd like to leave a couple if you have any questions. So I'd like now to introduce Roseanne Marsh from Pastone Foundation, who will wrap up our presentation.
Thank you, Alice. Roseanne is always welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Alice, councillors. Our presentation to you would not be complete without talking about the Hope Award, which will again be celebrated at Club Italia in Niagara Falls. This is going to be the 5th annual Hope Award. We have had a string of exciting and entertaining celebrities at our events, including Rex Murphy, Rick Mercer, Henry Winkler, and Richard Dreyfuss. And again this year, we are excited to have Chantal Kreviazuk, who will be speaking and singing about her life as a singer and songwriter and how her own mental health challenges have affected her career. As well, Sue Chapman will be receiving this year's Hope Award to recognize her outstanding contributions to children's mental health. Sue was a longtime employee of Niagara Child Development Center, the first children's mental health center serving children in Niagara. We hope this year all 12 municipalities and the region will be represented at the event to acknowledge the importance of our elected officials, what the importance our elected officials have given to mental health of our children. So please plan to join us at the Hope Award on May the 30th. Tickets can be ordered from our website, pathstonementalhealth.ca. And that's the end. So thank you very much. And if there are any questions, we will try to answer them.
Great, thank you, Roseanne, well done. Members of council, are there any questions or comments? Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Worship. I guess I would have to direct this question to you, Alice. First of all, thank you for your presentation. Mental health, as we're all aware, is something that doesn't really get enough attention. And lots of these children are pushed by the wayside when they really, really do need to access this. Is there a cost for an individual? I heard you mention when you were speaking that your contacts right now or your link is through Port Cares. But for, you know, low-income families, are costs deferred, or is it done through OHIP, or just, if you could just explain that.
Thank you,
There-
Councillor Ellis.
There is no cost for 99% of our services. They are all covered by the provincial government, the Ministry of Children and Youth Services.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments, members? Well, with none, I will say thank you, Ellis, and to you and to your entire team. Thank you. Because, and by the way, I went to the event last year at the Club Italia. It was fantastic. Fantastic speaker, Richard Dreyfuss was great. He actually put on I think it was more of a show than a speech. He was so animated and just so passionate about what he was talking about. So for all you folks, by all means, take the night and go out and support Pastone, because it's a wonderful event and a lot of people show up, and so you get great company, great food, of course, and of course great entertainment. But as well, I want to thank you, Alice, for really shining a light on mental health. This is an area that's traditionally been sort of kept quiet, and I think a lot of that has to do with the stigma that was attached to it. But yourself and your organization, both with the foundation as well as the board, have really shone a light on it to really send a message out that it shouldn't be kept quiet. It should be something that's front and center so that it can be dealt with in the most appropriate fashion, whether it's with our young or our young at heart. So by all means, take back the takeaway this evening for yourself, as well as members of council, is that appreciation to all of those that are working very hard here in the Niagara region to ensure that this is addressed. So well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members of council, we're now going to move on to presentations, and I'm going to start off with Ron Hansen, who's the Director of Engineering and Operations, who is going to speak to us about the Valley Health and Wellness Center.
Mayor Badaway and members of council, we've just recently received an update on our application for the Valley Health and Wellness Center regarding our LEED certification. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and is a set of rating systems for the design, construction, operation, and maintenance of green buildings, homes, and neighborhoods. LEED is intended to help building owners and operators be environmentally responsible and use resources efficiently. Since they were created in 1998, LEED standards have been applied to more than 7,000 projects in the United States and 30 other countries, covering more than 1.5 billion square feet of development area. The Valley Health and Wellness Community Center was conceived and designed at the outset with a goal of achieving LEED Silver certification in an effort to make the new facility sustainable. Sustainable buildings mean less water, less waste, and less energy. The investment in LEED practices will pay dividends and savings throughout the life of the facility. 6 categories associated with facility design and construction correlate to levels of environmental benefits. Those standards are choosing sustainable building sites, minimum site disturbance, and redevelopment of the brownfield sites. Efficient use of water, including rainwater harvesting, drought resistance in landscaping. Energy and atmospheric control such as CO2 monitoring and heat recovery. Focus on renewable, recycled, and non-toxic materials. Maximizing indoor environmental air quality by minimizing toxic compounds used during the construction. Using innovative systems and design processes such as green cleaning, renewable energy, and green roofs. Based on the LEED scorecard for the categories for the Valley Health and Wellness Center, we achieved a score of 43 points, thereby attaining a gold certification certificate. Gold is achieved by getting between 39 and 51 points on our scorecard. The project was completed in December 2012. The official opening of the facility was February 2013. We received our LEED Gold certification in January 2014. The LEED Gold plaque presented tonight will be placed with the LEED certificate in the lobby of the Valley Center at a future date. So, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to come up, we have the plaque.
Oh, very nice.
This is a beautiful plaque. It's mounted on Canadian maple, and it's engraved, carved glass mounted on the plaque.
There you go, guys. Well done. Well done. If I may, just a few words about this whole process, and I think I can go on about the entire process. However, I do want to state that this this certification was in fact not done without a lot of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears, quite frankly. Bill, you know, Bill was the chair of the committee, Councillor Steele, as well as members of staff, of course, members of MJM and MHPM, both our design and our project management team, and as well, most importantly, were the members of the community that came out sometimes twice, 3 times a month to deal with the project, but also deal with some of the other issues that were surrounding the project for the past 4 to 6 years. So I do have to say this evening, on behalf of the community, thank you to you, Ron, and to your staff. Thank you, Bill, to you, as well as other members of council that were part of the committee. And most importantly, thank you to the members of the public that were part of the committee. And I have to say as well, the consultant team, MJM, MHPM, and of course our general contractor, Aquacon, who did a phenomenal job in designing, managing, and then finally building a facility that, quite frankly, is second to none within the Niagara region, and possibly even the province of Ontario, if not the entire country. So a great big appreciation goes out to those folks, and again as well to members of the community. It's theirs to keep for many, many years down the road, and you can be rest assured when this facility was built, not only does it provide the services that you enjoy every day, but looking back maybe 20 or 30 or 40 years down the road, it was built with great responsibility with the environment, and hence the reason why we're recognized with Gold LEED certification. So well done by a community that built a facility for a community. With that, while I'm up here, I have the privilege once again to recognize some other individuals, or another individual in our community that has given the city of Port Colborne, most importantly our residents, most important our young residents, a great deal of her time and generosity and passion. And it's my pleasure this evening to take you, I guess, take you on a ride with respect to what this individual has done for the community. And what I mean by that is just imagine for a minute your job, what you do every day, what you get out of bed to do, and of course spend the entire day, if not night, doing your job, and of course coming home when you're done. And many people go to work for 8:30 in the morning. I imagine all of us, if not most of us, do that every day, and work until noon. We have lunch, we have a lunch break, and then go back to work until about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're done. You're at home with your families, and of course you can spend some quality time. You get paid for 7 hours each day of work, and with that, at least most do. I think most do. But and with that, now take a second to imagine that you go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and go home at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then you go back to work at 11:30 in the morning, and then back home again at 1:45. So actually there is no lunch. You're working during lunch. Then finally you go back to work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you go back home at 4 p.m. Imagine that. Your whole day is consumed, but you've only really worked 4.25 hours in a day. But your whole day is consumed. You also go to work outdoors, rain, sleet, snow or hail, or sometimes even 100-degree weather. Nothing stops you. You're there because you have to be there. This is the life of a school crossing guard working for the city of Port Colborne. With 7 elementary schools in Port Colborne, we have 12 crossing locations that we maintain. And at these locations, we have 13 full-time, extremely dedicated individuals who work for us to help keep the children of our community safe. We are here today to honor one of our crossing guards who has just started her retirement. And it's my pleasure to call up Mrs. Janine Tardif. Janine, come on up. Janine has been working as a crossing guard for the city of Port Colborne for 30 years. Can you imagine that? 30 years. And I hear with no umbrella either. It takes, and I can say with a great deal of confidence and on your behalf, it takes a great deal of passion and a very special person to give that type of commitment to their job, a job that Janine has obviously loved throughout the many years she's worked. I am told that Janine was one of our most reliable crossing guards, rarely missing a day in those 30 years. She did not drive, so she would walk to her corner, or her husband would drop her off and sometimes wait for her if the weather was that bad. She became a trusted friend to the students under her care. She watched generations of families grow up and move on. She was a welcomed friend in the neighborhood, and the neighbors took care of her in the bad weather, offering sometimes a balcony or some shelter when the weather got nasty. Janine worked in the Bell Street and Ferris Street area. I used to see her every time when I used to live on the east side. I'd see her every morning. Never did get close to you though, did I?
No.
When that stop sign went up, you stopped. Ready, Mo? Excuse me. And then in this area, she assisted many students with the Ecole St. Joseph being there, and Dewart Carter, and of course St. Therese. It was primarily Dewart Carter and the students attending Dewart Carter for the past 10 or 15 years that she's attended to. And she has also been at Omer and Steele Street, assisting the students attending both Oakwood and St. John Bosco. I understand that Mike's carrying on the family tradition. Your son Mike is carrying on the family tradition where he works at the Colelli Elizabeth area. So you guys traveling down Colelli, Bodner, Doucette, Desmarais. Be careful in that area. But I can say with a great deal of confidence as well as of appreciation, Janine, on behalf of members of City Council and on behalf of all the residents, most importantly, of the City of Port Colborne, especially our younger ones and those that grew up throughout the 30 years that you helped them be safe, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for the commitment you have given us for the past 30 years, because it is noticeable. And I think if you talk to any youngster that has had an attachment to you throughout the years, they would in fact repeat those appreciative words that I'm having on behalf of council as well as the community. So with that, I do have a plaque here. And no, they won't let me send you to Hawaii yet. I told you that at the Optimist Club too, eh? My budget, eh? Yeah, my budget. But I do have a plaque here, Janine, presented to you, Janine Tardif, in recognition of 30 years of dedicated and outstanding service to the City of Port Colborne. Thank you. On behalf of Port Colborne City Council, colleagues, and all the residents of the City of Port Colborne, the contributions your efforts have provided to our community will be everlasting.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Oh, don't go anywhere. Janine, don't go anywhere yet. I have something else for you. I have something else here for you. So I'm going to take that from you.
Okay.
And I do have a little gift here that we traditionally give our retirees. And you have to open it up. So we're going to get you to open this up. So everybody can see what it is. Are you saving the paper?
No.
Rip it off. There you go. Oxford, take that right out of that.
Oh, wow.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you very much. Very pleased with that.
You're welcome. Now, members of council, that's a traditional shot of West Street that we give our retirees. There you go.
Thank you.
I'll put this back in here for you. Now, did you have your 5-minute speech ready?
Oh, no.
Oh, you didn't get the memo?
No.
But did you have anything to say? Do you want to say anything?
I want to say thank you for everyone who came tonight, and thank you for everything they do for me.
You're welcome. Thank you, Janine.
That's all.
Remember, yeah, you have to know this, guys. Like, I grew up right around the corner from Janine. I used to hang out with Mike and the family as a youngster, and she used to chase me down the street with a broom. No, she didn't. I'm just kidding. But yeah. But just a wonderful family. So as much as we're thanking her for what she's done as a crossing guard, I do want to say thank you, just as a resident, and really putting up with a lot of us troublemakers in the neighborhood back in those days.
Yeah.
But by all means, thank you to you and your family for everything that you've given the residents of the city of Port Colborne.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So I've got this for you. Janine, what I also did was, I always keep this separate. I'm not sure if you want to put it on here or in the back. So I keep that separate for you. Okay, so you can take that with you.
Thank you.
And Marianne, you wanted a picture, right? Did you want one with the picture too? Okay. Okay, good. I'm just gonna put this in here for you. B, or Barb, can you just wrap this back up for me, please, while we're taking the picture, and we'll just keep it in the box?
Yep.
Okay, where's that out here? There's stuff out here. Thank you. Members of council, we're now going to move on to my report. I have one small item I do want to discuss or just mention to council, more importantly, members of the public. Imagine Niagara is happening right now throughout the entire region. And what it is it's an initiative by the regional government, specifically planning and development services at the region, to invite residents to come out and give their vision of what they see Niagara being today, but equally as important as Niagara in their minds should be tomorrow. And they're having these meet and greet events throughout the region for the past, they started a few weeks ago. And we are looking at scheduling one here in the city of Port Colborne over at the Valley Health and Wellness Center on March 18th, which is a Tuesday, between 7 and 9. I would encourage folks to come on out for that, because it really gives you an opportunity to, in fact, give your vision of not only the city of Port Colborne, but the entire region of Niagara. With regard to anything, whether it be lifestyle, parks and recreation, whether it be industry, retail, it could be housing, it's overall simply trying to map out a vision, hearing from our residents on this date. So, March 18th, once again, time is 7 to 9, over at the Valley Health and Wellness Center on the main floor. By all means, everyone's invited, and come on out and take part. So with that, we're going to move on to the Regional Council's report. Councillor Barrick. David, welcome.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll have to compare notes in the future, that was an item of mine as well. That's fine. That's fine. It is an important item, and it is located in Port Colborne, so it's great that that you mentioned it as well. I also want to take an opportunity to let residents know the Niagara region is accepting nominations for its 2014 Environmental Awards. The region is looking for individuals, businesses, community groups, etc., and families who have made significant contributions to safeguarding Niagara's natural environment. These awards recognize contributions to environmental conservation in Niagara in the following areas: conserving the existing environment, repairing damage done in the past, increasing public understanding and awareness. To be eligible, the nominee must have volunteered their time, and they can see the nomination packages on the region's website, and the deadline is April 11th. I did want to take the opportunity as well to speak very briefly to Niagara's, the region's Niagara Week initiative that we do every year. It is now the 10th year running, which usually occurs in May. May 5th to May 7th. It's by now firmly established, well-known and well-respected, and very well-attended advocacy event. Many factors play heading into the May event, and we know it's a minority government. There's a pending provincial budget, potential for a spring election, and potential for change in government. The minority government means increased role of opposition parties and the importance of caucuses and critics. 2013, we did have some success with regards to our Niagara Week initiatives, in particular the Greenbelt Review 2014 and interest arbitration. And many of these are still ongoing as well. This year, we're looking at continuing to advocate for GO Rail expansion. We're looking at BEC Economic Cluster Electricity Program. That's essentially advocating for reduced industrial rates, for more jobs and more investment in Niagara. The Niagara to GTA corridor, the South Niagara East-West Arterial route, we continue to advocate for that, for direct access to employment lands in the Gateway Economic Zone. The Niagara Casino rate stabilization, the current tax classification results in $6 million impact to the regional levy, so it's important to get clarity on that. An agricultural community improvement plan, which allows the agricultural sector to multi-use their property and incentivize job creation through unique land uses. We're also going to be advocating to take a closer examination at provincially significant wetlands. The onerous mapping updates have jeopardized previously established employment lands, and it's certainly worth reflecting and review. And finally, community-based mental health services. It's timely that Pathstone was here this evening as well, and we do know that mental health doesn't get the attention that it deserves, and so Niagara is advocating to connect clients with services and onto employment opportunities as well. So that's my report this evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Barrick. Members of council, are there any questions or comments? With none, David, thank you. Appreciate it. Members of council, councillors' items, new business. Councillor Doucette, Councillor Steele.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm sort of torn between what I'm going to talk about and what I'd like to see done. I noticed last week, the week before, we cleared out a whole area in town of snow, and we took it out, and we had heard that that was going to happen. And it's great that it's done. But one of the areas that appears to be lacking is the fact that the crossways, we have a crossing guard here. And I can tell you right now that to get to Saint Joseph, because I walk it with my grandchildren often, they've got to go over a snowbank and down, and then across, back over a snowbank and back down again. And I have some serious concerns with a child slipping or a crossing guard slipping. Now, one of the responses I've received in the past is, well, the crossing guard should bring a shovel and shovel it out. Well, is that their job? I'm not saying it's anyone's fault, but I think we're going to need to take a serious look at that, because when we do that and we don't take care of our little ones at getting across properly, and they have to do that. If it's a year that there isn't a lot of snow, who cares? But a year like this year, when they've got to go over a snowbank because the plows have gone by and then back over another snowbank to try to get across on the other side, that is serious danger. After all, I'm concerned. So I just put it out there. I think we need to seriously take a look at it to try to help mitigate the possibility of someone getting hurt, especially a little one. Okay? I don't know if that can be done before something like that is done. I'm not sure how the process would be, but I believe that we as council, I think over the next couple of months and up until the next season, should take a serious look at that and see if there's something that we can do. I also have a concern in requesting this and turning around, and I know for a fact we're pushing the envelope of operations, especially this year. So we may not have the staff to do it, so how do we accomplish it in the safest possible way? So I don't necessarily want to turn around and say we have to do it, but I believe that we need to find an answer to that particular concern of mine.
Thank you.
And it's a concern of a lot of other people, by the way. I've heard it a lot this year.
Thank you,
Okay.
Councillor. Mr. Hanson?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We certainly, as a city, do not have the manpower to clear all the school crossings. Many of the school crossings are on regional roads. We would have to clear snow on regional roads. The staff right now, I can assure you, are strapped to the limit in terms of getting to all the sidewalk areas in front of City Hall, in front of all the municipally owned properties in the city that we have to clear within 24 hours of a snowstorm. The snow clearing downtown is a one-off. It's a one-off that's usually done in February if we've had a bad winter. A task like you're raising would require doing that through the entire winter season on a regular basis. It would certainly require more manpower of some sort. I don't know what the answer is. It certainly is. It would be a budget consideration to bring more manpower online in terms of a winter storm. Beyond that, we'd have to investigate and see what resources are available to us. I know some of the crossing guards do. I know the one in my neighborhood actually does some of the clearing. I know a lot of the residents that live on corners, they actually clear the snow on the corners. So some of that is done. So it's an issue, it's a manpower issue, and it's a financial issue that has to be dealt with.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. May I suggest, instead of leaving this as a loose end, let's take it to the next step. You have a concern. You have a somewhat of a recommendation to look at the possibility of clearing these intersections or these sidewalk intersections. Mr. Hanson has some concerns with respect to resources. May I suggest that we come back with some information from staff, whether it be through a report, Ron. I'm not sure if it has to be that extravagant, but just information that council can consider within this year's budget, which will lead us into obviously the next snow season, which will be in the latter part of fall, into November, December next year. And then, of course, as Mr. Hanson stated, it would then have to be looked at for next year's budget. But at least we can have that information in the meantime to look at the realities of what the human resources as well as the costs attached to that and equipment would be. Is that fair enough, members of council?
That was my goal.
Is that fine? Okay. Good. Thank you, Councillor Doucette. I now have Councillor Steele and Councillor Elliott on that issue, B? No, okay. Go ahead, Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just an email I received over the weekend. I'll just read it out. I'll pass this along to Mayor with regards to the Police Services Board. I don't know if you are the right person to talk to, but my wife and I, our seniors just moved to Port Colborne last December. We thought it would be a good place to retire. We live near Clarence and Steele Street, right between two schools. We have noticed unbelievable speeding from cars and trucks on this intersection. I've contacted NRP to no avail. We have grandkids and know the importance of safety, but this intersection is just plain dangerous, where it says 40 kilometers an hour means nothing and you will never see radar set up. It's just a matter of time before a child gets hit. I have talked to the crossing guard, and he has had many close calls. Can you help? It's from James Gray on Clarence Street. I sent an email back just stating I would bring it up to your attention this evening, Your Worship, because I know you sit on the Police Services Board. So if, and I have seen police in the Steel Street zone in the past, usually during the beginning of the school year after the summer when the kids are going back to school, but maybe if they start cracking down a little bit more, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. If you can forward me the email too on the system, that would be great, so I can respond as well.
Oh, yeah, I'll forward that one.
And just an FYI for members of council and even those out in the public, you know, this is what we have to hear. So that way I can get a hold of the staff sergeant, and in this case presently it's Chris Scotland over at our detachment, and he's been very responsive. He'll let the guys know at the beginning of their shift, at the briefing, some of the trouble spots that we're having, but hearing this from the residents helps out a lot so that they can get over there and deal with it versus trying to guess where some of the spots are. So by all means, members of council, members of the public, when there are these trouble spots, let me know, and that way I can pass it on to Staff Sergeant Scotland and he can deal with it. Okay, thank you, Councillor Steele, appreciate that. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I had an inquiry from a resident with regards to the old Port Pontiac property on Highway 3. The question was, it is a body shop repair facility. Are you allowed to store as many, I'm going to say it, wrecked cars as he has piled out the back? Tires are off, cars are just sitting on the ground. It's more like a wrecking yard than it is a repair shop facility. Does that fall within the zoning parameters? I know it's private property. We hate to go after anybody that's using it to the full extent that they can. I drove by. It does look rather untidy to see that many cars out in the back, and obviously they are not roadworthy. They have no tires on them. They're just sitting on the ground. Like I said, it's more like a wrecking yard than it is a repair facility, so I'm going to put that dance on here. So Lyle, if you're looking after that portfolio tonight.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Merritt.
Councillor Elliott, this is an ongoing investigation. MOE has been involved and is involved, and I can't give you any more information other than we have been there and it is ongoing.
Thank you. Fine. Okay. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship. The item that I have to bring forward will require a leave of council to bring forth a resolution that council asked the Environmental Committee to handle. So.
Sure. If I can have a leave of council. Councillor Steele, Councillor Butters, questions or comments to that? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. And be patient because, first of all, I want to give a lot of thanks to the members of this committee who really took this challenge on and did a lot of research. It was really great working with this group of people who, like I said, took time to study this. And so this is a draft resolution opposing the construction of a nuclear waste repository in the Great Lakes Basin. It says, whereas the Ontario Power Generation is proposing to construct an underground long-term burial facility for all of Ontario's low and intermediate level radioactive nuclear waste at the Bruce Nuclear Generation Station, some of which is highly radioactive and will remain toxic for over 100,000 years. This site is approximately 1 kilometer inland from the shore of Lake Huron and about 400 meters below the lake level. Whereas water is Canada's most important resource and should be protected and managed prudently. Whereas the Great Lakes are an irreplaceable natural resource containing 21% of the world's and 95% of North America's fresh water, vital to human and environmental health. Whereas the Great Lakes are vital to the economic and agricultural well-being to both Canada and the United States of America. Whereas Lake Huron and connecting waters, including Lake St. Clair, are a source of drinking water for millions of people downstream in Canada, the United States, and First Nations. Whereas concern has been expressed by individuals, citizen and environmental groups, and municipalities, and counties in both Canada and the United States. Whereas under 2012 protocol amending the agreement between Canada and the United States on Great Waters Lake quality, the governments of Canada and the United States acknowledge the importance of anticipating, preventing, and responding to threats to the waters of the Great Lakes. Whereas the government of Canada and the United States share a responsibility and an obligation to protect the Great Lakes from contamination from various sources of pollution, including the leakage of nuclear waste from an underground nuclear waste repository. Whereas placing a permanent nuclear waste burial facility so close to the Great Lakes is ill-advised. The potential damage to the Great Lakes from any leak or breach of radioactivity far outweighs any suggested economic benefit that might be derived by burying radioactive nuclear waste at this site. The ecology of the Great Lakes, valuable beyond measure to the health and economic well-being of the entire region, should not be placed at risk by storing radioactive nuclear waste underground so close to the shoreline. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Port Colborne, in order to protect the Great Lakes and its tributaries, urges that neither this proposed nuclear waste repository at the Bruce Nuclear Generation Station or any other underground nuclear waste repository be constructed in the Great Lakes Basin in Canada, United States, or any First Nation property. Be it further resolved that the City of Port Colborne urges the Government of Canada and the Government of Ontario to reject and seek alternatives to Ontario Power Generation's proposal to bury radioactive nuclear waste in the Great Lakes Basin. And be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be provided to the Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne, Canada's Prime Minister Stephen Harper, Canada's Federal Minister of Environment Leona Agagula, and MPP Cindy Forster, as well as MP Malcolm Allen.
Thank you, Councillor. May I suggest we tag on the bottom of that we ask for all municipalities to support through AMO, as well as Region of Niagara, as well as the Great Lakes Mayors Cities Initiative, which includes both sides of the border. So that should add a bigger voice to it. So with that, we have a mover. Seconder, Councillor Doucette. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Kenny, would you like to speak on it?
I would just, again, I would just like to say that this committee really took this on and really did a lot of research. We got emails back and forth from all members of the committees, and we do have another one that we're working on, and that's another one that Council gave us as well, and that's in regards to the call to recycle. We are going to bring that. We're going to bring that forward as well. But this was really important to all of us, and I know it's important to everyone. And I just I'm really very proud of a small committee that they're residents of Port Colborne, but really took this to heart and really did their homework. And we are very happy that Council passed it on to us, and we're able to present this tonight. And we'll give this to the clerk so she can take it from here, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny, and good job, and to the committee as well. Members of Council, no further questions or comments on the resolution? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have some really good news to share tonight. I chair the EVAC committee, the East Village Action Committee, and I was fortunate to receive a call from Regional Chair Gary Burrows, who called to let us know that EVAC has been chosen to be one of the recipients of the funds raised through the regional chair's golf tournament every year. Last year's funds, EVAC is supposed to be receiving $15,000 from that fund, which is just the most wonderful news. The committee was really happy that this has happened, so joined with the funds we have on hand, that gives us well in excess of, I think, about $23,000 or $24,000 to put toward that park. So the park is really going to take a big step this year. So we're really excited about that. But I wanted everybody to know that the 2014 golf tournament is on Thursday, October 21st, and please do try to take part. This is a great thing. Oh, sorry, August. August 21st, 2014, yes. It's on a Thursday. The registration forms can be found on the regional website. So just that piece of information, it was just a really exciting thing, and we're happy to have that happen.
Good. Well, you earned it. So good job to you guys. Members of Council, any further new business or Councilor's items? Councillor Danch?
Just one quick one today there. a penny for your thoughts, I guess. One of the locals came up to me and was complaining that they came to City Hall to pay their tax bill. They wanted to pay the exact amount. And I know we're only talking about pennies because it's either it's going to go up or go down. So I spoke with Peter and asked what the policy was at City Hall. Of course, the city doesn't accept pennies. And I guess myself as a retailer, our point of sale system rounds up and rounds down. So maybe we could get a small piece of paper on that piece of glass in front of the person that's collecting the funds to say that whether you're paying your funds in cash, we will round up or round down, and that over the 2-3 cents, maybe we won't get too worked up. I think the penny's been gone since November. Don't see a lot of them around, but this one was a little up in arms because they wanted to pay the exact amount. But anyways, Peter, I think you can give me a little bit more. Thank you.
Mr. Sinez?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. We did change to the Bank of Canada policy with regard to the rounding up and down with when they eliminated the penny to the nickel. So we do follow that policy, rather trying to take all the pennies out of circulation. We do the same as retail outlets and that where everything's rounded to the 5 cents. So we do that. In addition, though, if anybody wants to pay to the penny by check, online banking, you know, that in those respects you pay the exact amount that is on your bill. If you're coming in though with cash, then it is that 5 cent differential there. We did when it first came out. We had something up, but we'll put it back out there if people are still not too familiar with the process yet. We can still make them aware of that and have it there for them.
Thank you, Mr. Sinez. Further new business, Councillor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment about the East Village Park. We will need to get moving on some of what we want to do because Community Living is applying to use the park again for a summer camp. So I don't know how quickly. It's either before or after, so that's something we'll need to get together on and find out. Because I went to every kid in our community's meeting middle of last week, and they indicated that they were applying to use the park for that again, and if there's going to be a sunshade or whatever it is we're going to build with that money, they were hoping it would be done before they started their camp. So I just put that out.
Thank you. Members of staff, want to comment on that? Anybody want to take a shot at it? No? Mr. Hanson, go ahead.
We haven't been in a position yet to really work out a schedule of when the work and that's going to be done. So we'll get the times for the summer camp, get the dates and see what we can do. We may have to delay some of the construction till after the summer camp. So we'll try to work with the group as much as we can.
Great. Thanks, Ron. Members of council, any further new business? Councillor Adams, Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could just speak to the last issue, I don't know if you knew this, Councillor Doucette, but we haven't chosen the sunshade yet. No. Yeah, we have to do that yet, so we still have to meet with staff to do that. No meeting has happened yet, so it's probably not going to happen in time for the community groups to use the park.
Thank you, Councillor Desmarais. With no further new business, Councillor Adams, members of staff, are there any staff items? Mr. Hakeem.
Yes, Your Worship, through you to members of council. I recently applied for a grant application through the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport, the Ontario Sport, Recreation, Culture Fund, Communities Fund. And the grant or the application requirements had 4 requirements, 3 of which we've fulfilled so far, but 1 requires a resolution by council to support the grant application. And I'm here to ask for that resolution so that I can carry forward with the process of review and acceptance of the grant application.
Great. Councillor Steele, if we can have council first.
I'll move leave of council.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Doucette, questions or comments? Mr. Elliott.
Just, I guess, real quick, what's the application for and what's the amount?
Mr. Hakeem.
The application is really to expand on the programming base that we're developing over at Valley, as well as all the other community facilities that we have at our disposal. This one is targeting actually 2 or 3 areas of programming. One is with older adults, the fact that we're bringing in a specialized program that deals with osteopenia and osteoporosis exercise program, which is specialized for people that are afflicted with that. Looking at equipment, supplies, and things of that nature. And the cost benefit for us is that we're also charging for these programs, so there is a return on investment that way. But we're looking at just some funding support, if it comes through, to buy equipment. And there are other areas of programming that we're looking at in terms of the cultural aspects and things of that nature. So it's it's driven by the program development that we're undertaking right now.
Great, thank you,
The amount, I believe that we're requesting is around 15,000.
Thank you, Mr. Hakeem. Councillor? That's fine. Members of council? For leave of council, we haven't voted on that one yet. So let's start off with that. Let's start off with that one. I have Councillor Steele, and I have Councillor Doucette. Any questions or comments further to leave? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Steele, you're putting that recommendation forward?
Yes, Your Worship, that we support the grant application. And then I was going to ask for the explanation, but he's given it to us, and that's fine.
That's fine. Thank you. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Danch. Are there any questions or comments further? Any comments from staff further to this? With none, all those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Further new business. Councillors' items, members of staff. We're good. Okay. Oh, Mr. Heil.
Your Worship, we've been trying to work out special arrangements for capital budgets, capital summaries, capital reports. We were talking about March 17th, but that's not going to work. So what we're going to be doing, we talked to His Worship this afternoon about trying to see what we could do with the 24th, which is a regular night, bump it up early, beginning at 5:30 or even at 5 o'clock if possible. The clerk will work out whether or not it'll be a special council or whether or not it's going to be a regular committee of the whole beginning at 6:30. The bylaw requires committee of the whole 6:30. I'll work it out with the clerk and see what we can do so we can bring the reports on that night.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. Councillor Elliott.
I would be remiss, Mayor, if I didn't stand and say congratulations to the Port Colborne Operatic Society for their staging of The Music Man. And I can't waste an opportunity to be nice, be really nice. Our CAO was part of the cast. He performed his part admirably, as well as everybody else that was in it. I had several close friends that were part of the cast, and it was an excellent performance all around. We got to see it, my wife and I, and thoroughly enjoyed it. The cast did a remarkable job. Barry Snyder was in the lead, and was a remarkable performance to sing, dance, remember all his lines. So a tip of the cap to Port Colborne Operatic Society, and I do believe that every year they look for more volunteers. So if any of this cast of characters would like to volunteer for the next show that they're putting on next year, it was well done, and tip of the cap to Bob.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. And there's no doubt. I went there for the opening night, and over 70 in the cast. I believe over 60 behind the scenes. Over 60 behind the scenes, and out of the 70 and 60, there's over between 25 to 35 youngsters that are involved in both the cast and behind the scenes. So when you go in there and you see the show, yes, you see what's on stage, but yet when you go behind the stage and behind the scenes, people are just running around like crazy. It's just young at heart. It's just crazy. So absolutely, Councillor Elliott, a tip of the cap to all the folks that put on such a quality performance, and it just goes to show you the talent that we have here in this part of the region with the Operatic Society, as well as Showboat, quite frankly. So by all means, when those things, when you read those things in the paper, to go out and buy tickets to go, take full advantage of it, because it's a great night out. Mr. Howe?
If I may, on behalf of the president and the association, thank you for the kind comments. And next year's performance is Fiddler on the Roof. And everyone, so I will have a big beard. Looking forward to yes, I do have to audition. I may not get one.
Thank you, Mr. Heil. Members of council, I'm going to move on to the adoption of the minutes. I do have the minutes of the 6th meeting regular of Committee of the Whole dated February 24th, 2014. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bodnar, Councillor Elliott, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We will now consider the items that require a separate discussion this evening. We're going to start off with item 1. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Department of Engineering and Operations, Engineering Division, report number 2014-8. The subject is SMARL, Rural and Northern Municipality Infrastructure Fund Capital Program, Lakeshore West Water Main Rehabilitation, that the Council of the City of Port Colborne approved by bylaw the entering into a transfer payment agreement with the Ministry of Rural Affairs for the Small Rural and Northern Municipal Infrastructure Fund Capital Program, and further that the Mayor and Clerk be authorized to sign the appropriate bylaw and the agreement.
Thank you, Councillor. Have a second to that, please. Councillor Danch, questions or comments? Councillor Kenny.
Great news. Fantastic news for our municipality, and I would defer to Mr. Hansen as a letter came from him to tell everyone the good news. Mr. Hansen, that would be great. Thanks.
Mr. Hansen.
Mr. Mayor, I'll choose my words very carefully here. For those municipalities that were successful in getting funding for the infrastructure program, that will be publicly announced tomorrow on March the 11th. And prior to that, municipalities that have been successful can't announce. Having said that, the bylaw and the applications for those successful municipalities have to be received by the ministry by this Friday. So that's where it is right now. And the Minister of Rural Affairs will be announcing the successful applicants tomorrow on March 11th, as I said. And then at that point in time, those municipalities would be able to put forward a press release to that.
Now, members of council, when I sent the email out informing you of this, Ron was very quick to the keyboard to also let you know that it was confidential until, with all due respect to the minister, he had the opportunity to announce it publicly, which is his duty. You'll notice on page 53 of the report, it does state that they would like to keep this as confidential as possible. And although they wanted this to go into a closed session, they corrected themselves and sent a letter off to the clerk saying that keep it as confidential as possible. Although it doesn't have to go into closed session, we would like the opportunity to announce it ourselves. So having said that, a great big request to the media, if you can embargo this until Wednesday, following the minister's announcement. It was sort of a catch-22 for us. We had to get this thing passed tonight so that we can have the paperwork down there by Friday. It wasn't proper to do it in closed session. It had to be done in open session, but the minister's not announcing it until tomorrow. So I'm really calling upon the media to to not have this in the paper tomorrow. If you are going to put it in the paper, to embargo it for Wednesday, it would be very much appreciated, I'm sure, by the minister. If in fact you're looking at doing anything for it or with it, if you can embargo it until Wednesday, that'd be great. So, with that, yes, Councillor Kenny, great news. It's always nice news when you get $2.8 million from the province to do work, and I'm sorry, $2 million from the province. So that's great. So with that, we have a motion, members of council. No further questions or comments, I hope. All in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Thanks, Ron.
Enthusiasm for a non-announcement.
That's great news. Okay. And thank God this doesn't get to COGECO until what, tomorrow night? Tomorrow night, right? So the minister will have already made his announcement. Okay, next issue, we have item 9, Councillor Desmarais.
Jamie Lynn Lilly re-petitioned to the City of Port Colborne to change the play surface at the DeWitt Carter Playground, located north of the old fire hall on Fair Street. That the petition received from Jamie Lynn Lilly, petitioning the City of Port Colborne to change the playground surface at the DeWitt Carter Playground, located north of the old fire hall on Fair Street, be referred to the Director of Engineering and Operations for review and report to Council.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Doucette. Now, before every meeting, I always go to the audience or the gallery and ask why you're here. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is that if there's any reports on the agenda, and although the clerk sort of kicks me when I do this, I'll just ask for leave of counsel. Right, Ashley? But I do give you an opportunity if you want to speak on the reports that you may be here for or interested in, that you have that opportunity by asking for leave of counsel and giving you that opportunity. So on this report specifically, before I ask council to discuss it and or vote on it, is there anybody in the gallery that would like to speak on it or give comments on it? Ma'am, if you want to come on up and just state your name and your address. Now, before you do come up, I do have to respect the clerk's rules and ask for leave of counsel to allow you to come out. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Steele, all those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Ma'am, come on up. While you're coming up, I'm going to explain to those in the audience or in as well on COGECO that council does have policies that we have in place. It's called our procedural bylaw. And the clerk makes sure that she is the police person of ensuring that that procedural bylaw is adhered to. That's why a lot of times we ask for leave of counsel, because if in fact a procedure is not going to be abided by, but yet we want to give condition or consideration or respect to those that need something spoken on, or if there's some time constraints or it's time sensitive, council will afford, I guess, for lack of a better statement, a waiving of the procedural bylaw to allow these indifferences to happen. That's what we're doing here. We're asking for leave. We're going to ask someone to come on up and speak on something, although you weren't registered as a delegate. We're going to waive that procedure and allow you to speak on this report this evening. So, welcome. If I can just have your name and your address, you're good to go.
My name is Jamie Lynn Lilly. I live at 78 Cross Street in Port Colborne. I petitioned the city to look at the playground due to community children in my area that play there. There has been a bit of a health hazard with feces. My personal child plays there and has come home with feces on her attire.
You're talking about animal feces?
Yes. So that's why I brought it to the city. I just feel that that needs to be addressed.
Okay. Well, thank you. And thank you for that. Members of council, any comments or questions to the delegate or delegation? With none, thank you. Really appreciate that. I have Councillor Desmarais and then Councillor Doucette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I would like to say thank you to Jamie for taking this on and doing all the work, getting the petition. And I have spoken to Paul Payton about this, and he's advised me about the history of how this particular sand got put in that playground. Apparently, it's the last playground in Port Colborne with sand in it. The cats are using it as cats use sandboxes, so it is not good for the kids to be in there. Paul has suggested that we put wood fiber into the playground. He's also suggested that there may be money. Peter may be able to advise us as to whether there's money in the playground development fund, so that could be done right away before the kids start playing in the spring, because this is a health hazard. But I'd also like the people of Port Colborne to know that it's really not necessary to get out there and get a petition. They just need to make a phone call. That's what's important.
Absolutely.
That when there's something like this, we'll always respond to it immediately. Call staff, call one of your counselors, and it will be dealt with right away. This went on far too long, and Jamie's kids had to go through all of this. It was really unfortunate that it went that way, but I am really glad that Jamie took it upon herself to get it done. But maybe Peter could let us know if that money exists.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny, or Councillor Desmarais, and well stated. Very well stated, especially the point about the phone call. But I do have to admit, wow, like I look at the petition, you really went at it, eh? Yeah, I see that. You got like a few pages here, so a lot of signatures. So well done, excellent job. Before I go to Peter, I'm going to ask Councillor Doucette. You had some words?
Just thank you very much, Jamie. Jamie and I spoke, and one of the reasons I believe she had already started the petition, and I more or less suggested to her that she keep going at it, that winter was coming. But there's a serious health concern here, especially if you consider that some of the young mothers who may be pregnant again, there's a serious danger with them having cats around them. So, and you can read about it. It's not the cat's fault. It just is, and it's in their feces and in their. So that's a serious problem. And that means that some of the young children may not be able to go play until we resolve the issue. So I'd like to know from Peter as well whether we have this money and whether it can be done ASAP. So that's, mind you, we have to wait until everything thaws out, okay?
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Sinez?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. At this point, I don't have the number as to how much we have in the, we do receive funds throughout the year that goes into development charge playground reserve. Possibly could be used for this under the and we have a playground or play parks development charges. So we'd have to take a look and see how much dollars we do have there. But I know that Mr. Hansen has an update on the overall facility and as to how it can be upgraded or when it should be upgraded and so on. So I know Mr. Hansen has that information. Then we'd have to bring something back and with regard to the funding and the replacement of the grounds and so on. So Mr. Hansen has more update on it.
Thank you. Mr. Hansen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just some updated information on our playground system. We've got 17 playgrounds that we currently operate and maintain, and they're changed out on a cyclical basis. They last about 15 to 17 years. The DeWitt Carter playground is scheduled for 2018 for replacement. The replacement cost in today's dollars about $63,000. Out of that, that's for the equipment and the material on the base. The material in the base, which is engineered wood fiber, then we put a stone layer down below that with filter cloth. I have a current estimate from Play Power Canada, who does our playgrounds. It's about $13,000 to do that. So we wouldn't recommend changing that out by itself in isolation of the equipment. We would recommend the council consider, and we can bring this forward in a report, the council consider perhaps moving DeWitt Carter forward if the material needs to be changed out. So move it forward to 2015 and then do the entire playground with the materials. Now, I don't know what's available in that account if we could do it any quicker. But to put the material in 2014 now and then tear it all out in 4 years wouldn't make a lot of sense. So sort of an option of how to do things.
So may I suggest, thank you, Ron. May I suggest a report back to council with respect to the, and I agree, I don't think it's spending the $13,000 and ripping it up and then coming back a couple years later to do it. See if we can accelerate the project this year versus 15. See in that report where the money can come from, whether it come from one of the reserves. I have another reserve in mind it can come from as well. And quite frankly, Ron, my question to you is, you're talking $63,000 in 2018 dollars. Would it be less in 2014 dollars?
Mr. Mayor, it's $63,200 in 2014 dollars. In 2018, it'd be $73,200. We inflated by about 5% a year. So it'd be $10,000 cheaper if we do it this year. For 2015, the next one on the schedule of Vimy schools, we could always alternate, take Vimy back and put DeWitt into an earlier year, but it's all going to depend on the funds because we didn't budget any this year. 2014 is not a year where we're doing any playgrounds.
Okay. Mr. Sinez?
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts that we'll put together and then we'll bring that with Ron. We'll bring that report back with to council.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments? Councillor Demering.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. I do appreciate hearing all of this, and I would understand that it doesn't make sense to swap out the foundation material and not the actual equipment. But because this is a health issue, and we know that this should just not exist. We should not be having kids playing in there and exposing pregnant mothers to cat feces. It's just not the way it should be done. So we should be prepared to close that park if we're not going to do it. That's what it has to come down to. We can't have them exposed to us, and we would have to do that this year.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Butters?
The other side to this is, Mr. Mayor, that the students at DeWitt Carter have traditionally used that playground. When I worked there, and I can only assume it's probably not changed much, that park was used by on that side of the school for the younger age group of children, so from say kindergarten, grade 2-ish type kids. So closing that down would take that away from them, and certainly during the school year. And I don't think that's good for anybody there. So I don't want to see that park closed down. One way or another, we need to find a way to get rid of the cat toilet and get something in there this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elliott?
Yeah, I'll echo everybody's sentiments. I mean, you know, shuffle the deck, pull out a card here, open the top drawer, open the bottom drawer. I guess when you're tasked with looking after, or with the responsibility of looking after the health and safety of the residents, this is no brainer. I mean, it's got to be fixed this year. You can't put a Band-Aid on it and say, it's going to go away. No, you know what? We got to fix it. We got to fix it now. It's been brought to our attention. There's an issue. You can't sweep it away for a year. You have to fix it now. Shutting it down isn't going to help. Somebody's going to jump the fence and go and play because they want to. Wherever we find the money, whether we got to borrow it, whatever we have to do, we have to fix it this year. And I know Peter hates, I hate to spend money when we don't have it, but somewhere we have to find it, whether we have to borrow for it or, you know, push somebody else off, but it's got to be fixed now because it's an issue that's been brought up, so.
I can read your mind. I can read your mind. I know exactly which reserve you're going after. Councillor Doucette.
While we're replacing it, one of the things we should be also keeping in mind is the fact that we have children at DeWitt Carter and we have children in that community that have accessibility difficulties. So if we're going to fix it and replace it, can we also make sure that we replace it with accessible playground equipment as well for everybody? And I believe that may cost a little bit more, but if we're going to do it, let's do it right and let's make sure, because there are, I know of 3 young people around the corner, I believe, that are in wheelchairs that would love to be able to go play in there and they can't right now. So.
I believe that's a requirement now, isn't that, Ron?
It is a requirement. Yeah.
Excellent. Great, thank you. Thank you, councillors, and we have that. I don't think I need a motion. We'll just accept that as consensus and staff direction to come back with that report. Okay, great, thank you. Now back to the motion. Back to the motion. Are there any questions or comments? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to get a date that would come back to us, so in case Jamie and maybe the other parents would like to come and hear it.
Mr. Sinez? Mr. Hanson?
Mr. Mayor, we can bring that report, I believe, for the next meeting in March.
Great, thank you. Okay, no further questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Great job, guys. Thank you. And Ron and Peter, thank you as well. Great job. Okay, we're now going to move on to item 10. Councillor Bodner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ministry of Transportation Highway 3 Controlled Access Highway designation in the City of Port Colborne. That the correspondence received from the Ministry of Transportation Highway 3 Controlled Access Highway designation in the City of Port Colborne be received for information.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Steele, questions or comments to that? Councillor Bodner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know this is something that I guess we've both worked on in our times in that chair. Yeah. I'm not even sure, were you born when this started, Mr. Mayor? And,
I was 10.
Well, 10, okay, fair enough. This is back from 75, 73, 75, 74? Well, okay, I was close. And I know, Mr. Mayor, you've got some comments on this, so I'll let you give your thoughts on that. Thanks.
Well, it's been a while. I think members of council will realize that this is an order on council that was placed at the legislature at Queen's Park in 1974 that, as the correspondence alludes to, called for a tunnel to be built here in the City of Port Colborne that stretched for the better part from, I guess, Bodner's store all the way down and of course stretching out past, well, to our town line to the west. So essentially would have took the better part of our urban area out and a lot of our rural area out. So it has been a thorn in our side for the better part of the last, what, Ron, 3 decades, I'd say. That it's really reared its ugly head because of the development of the community, and of course the development of certain areas of the community with respect to everything from Mr. Schultz's property to the north, the Rosemount Estates. We had to get an easement last year for Rosemount Estates to be able to cross over this corridor from College Street to access their property. Other developments in the Wellington Street area, in the Clark Street area, in the Humboldt Street area, some hamlet areas out off Miller Road, and the list goes on. It's just been a thorn with respect to trying to get a lot of these developments moving forward because of the designation of this corridor. Now, as members of council, especially those that have been around for a while, recognize we have put in place resolution after resolution after resolution. Ron, when you sat in this chair, I think you guys did 2 or 3 resolutions. I know before that, even the previous mayor, Sean, with that council from 94 to 97, 97 to 03, 03 to 06, and then from 06 to now, every council has just put, and the region as well. The region, especially of late with the Mid-Penn, Niagara GTA corridor, as well as the East-West Arterial Road, resolution after resolution. Well, finally, on February 20th, we received a letter, Ashley received a letter from the regional director that has informed us that they finally have lifted this corridor designation from, with respect to a new order in council at the legislature, and now giving a lot of people a lot of development, a lot of developers, a lot of home owners, a lot of property owners satisfaction now that they can take full advantage of their properties and now move forward with their interests. So great news for the city. Minister Leal has been very kind to us in the last few weeks. The Minister of Rural Affairs has been very, and that would be Jeff Leal, Niagara This Week reporter. That would be Jeff Leal. So I just want to make sure that that spelling is proper. Barb, you know exactly where I'm going with that, don't you? So Minister Leo has been very kind to us, and thank you to him as his ministry, as well as the MTO for finally getting this done. So with that, members of council, the motion is to receive with a great deal of appreciation, and I do ask your pleasure on that. So any more comments? Ron, did you have any comments? I know, how long have you been here for? 40 some odd years now? It's been part of...
Mr. Mayor, I was here when they brought that forward. I can still remember having this large plan on the wall at the old City Hall, and we put the entire corridor up on the wall as a plan for public information. And at the time, it's funny because I think a lot of people thought it was a great idea at the time. There was going to be a tunnel because we only had 2 bridges at the time. Yeah. And there was major gridlock every summer here. Yeah. And a lot of people thought the tunnel was a great idea. So as it transpired and you start looking at the properties, it was less of a good idea as we move forward and try to do things. But that was the thought process in those days.
Not to mention the tunnel, you would actually bypass our entire city. And that's why I was, quite frankly, always so interested in why Welland wanted the 406 where they wanted it, because they actually bypassed the whole city now. You want people to drive through your city. Tunnel, you wouldn't see that. The tunnel would go through under the city. You wouldn't have people. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So great news. So with that, members, all those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Ron, I'd be remiss too if I didn't thank you guys too. You guys, and I know Danny Aquilina from planning have worked very hard on that too. So great work, great job. So with that, members, and no further items that have been lifted, I will now move on to notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion this evening? With none, I'll move on to motion to adjourn this portion of this evening's agenda. Councillor Bodnar, Councillor Doucette, questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We'll now move on to our council agenda. Madam Clerk, any addendum items?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. None this evening.
Thank you, Ashley. Members of council, I need a motion to confirm the agenda, please. Mover and seconder, Councillor Elliott. Councillor Butters, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We'll now move on to disclosures of interest. With none, adoption of the minutes. We have one set of minutes, the minutes of the 4th meeting regular of council dated February 24th, 2014. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bodnar, Councillor Doucette. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Items requiring separate discussion. With none, mover and seconder for the items on your agenda. Councillor Desmarais, Councillor Elliott. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. I do have 2 proclamations this evening, members. one just for you guys. You guys have been sitting here very patiently waiting for it, haven't you? Did you really think we're going to forget about it? No? The first proclamation, folks, is the proclamation for the Fresh Air Fund. And that whereas since 1877, the Fresh Air Fund, an independent, not-for-profit organization, has operated with one simple mission: to allow children living in low-income communities within New York City to get away from the hot, noisy streets and enjoy free summer experiences in the country. And whereas the Fresh Air Fund program operates in 13 states and in our Niagara region. And whereas nowhere else in Canada? Really? So only Port Hope? Cornwall. Cornwall. So just Cornwall and Niagara. That's it for Canada. Wow. That's impressive. Well, impressive for us. Not too good. They can't visit other areas of Canada. Yeah. So, and whereas the Fresh Air Fund program operates in 13 states and in our region of Niagara, and whereas for over 3 decades, Port Colborne families have opened up their hearts, their homes, hosting these children for 1 or 2 week periods, creating memories and relationships that can last a lifetime. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Van Badaway, is pleased and proud to proclaim Thursday, March 20th, 2014 as Fresh Air Fund Day here in the city of Port Colborne. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Doucette, Councillor Danch, any questions or comments? I'm going to say one thing, guys, and I should have said it earlier when you made your presentation. I meet these guys, these girls and boys, you know, from all ages, and they just absolutely love it. They love coming down here. They love the people they're with, the families they're with, and of course the activities that they are able to take part in here in our community and throughout the region. So good on you guys for doing this, and great work, because you really are making a difference for a lot of these youngsters from New York City. So with that, do I get a mover and seconder? All in favor? Opposed? That'll be carried. Thank you, and thank you guys. Great work. My second proclamation is for the Lupus Foundation, that whereas lupus is an autoimmune disease that can cause severe damage to the tissue and organs in the body, and in some cases death. And whereas more than 5 million people worldwide suffer the devastating effects of this disease, and each year over 100,000 young women, men, and children are newly diagnosed with lupus, the great majority of whom are women of childbearing age. And whereas medical research efforts into lupus and the discovery of safer, more effective treatments for lupus patients are underfunded in comparison with diseases with comparable magnitude and severity. And whereas many physicians worldwide are unaware of symptoms and the health effects of lupus, causing people with lupus to suffer for many years before they obtain a correct diagnosis and medical treatment. And whereas there is a deep unmet need worldwide to educate as well as support individuals and families affected by lupus. And whereas there is an urgent need to increase awareness in communities worldwide of the debilitating impact of lupus. Now therefore, I, Mayor Van Badaway, proclaim May 10th, 2014 as World Lupus Day, and October 2014 as October is Lupus Awareness Month in the city of Port Colborne, when lupus organizations around the world call for increases in public and private sector funding for medical research on lupus, targeted education programs for health professionals, patients, and the public, and worldwide recognition of lupus as a significant public health issue. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bodner, Councillor Kenny. I can say I know a few people that are doing and that are challenged with this disease, and quite frankly, folks, this proclamation couldn't speak more so, particularly with recognition and raising funds. And the need for that research to happen immediately versus after the fact, because you know when you see it firsthand, it's devastating. So the community is being asked to support through a resolution, which is the easy way. But I think for the most part, we should go steps further in really being a part of raising funds, creating more recognition, as well as ensuring that medical research for lupus does happen sooner rather than later. So with no comments, or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. I do have one set of minutes of boards, commissions, and committees. The minutes of the Canal Days Advisory Committee meeting held on January 15th, 2014. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Butters, Councillor Demeray, questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion this evening? With none, Madam Clerk, the introduction of the bylaws, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that the following bylaws be read 3 times and finally passed. Bylaw 60511714 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a transfer payment agreement between Her Majesty, the Queen and Right of Ontario, as represented by the Minister of Rural Affairs regarding the Small, Rural and Northern Municipal Infrastructure Fund Capital Program. Bylaw 60521814 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a transfer agreement with the Corporation of the City of Welland Transit Division for the local community bus and the link to Welland. And finally, bylaw 60531914 being a bylaw to temporarily close a section of King Street to vehicular traffic April 12, 2014 and April 13, 2014.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Butters, Councillor Kenny, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Madam Clerk, the confirmatory bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that the following bylaw be read 3 times and finally passed. Bylaw 60542014 being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne at its regular meeting, March 10, 2014.
Thank you, Ashley. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Danch, Councillor Kenny, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, we do have our next meeting coming up on Monday, March 24th. What's this? So upcoming meetings, we have a meeting on Monday, March 24th, a Committee of the Whole and Council here in the Chamber at 6:30 p.m., followed by April 14th, once again, Committee of the Whole and Council here in the Chamber, beginning at 6:30 p.m. So with that, and no further business, members of Council, I will ask everyone to have a wonderful week and take the time, don't forget, to spay and neuter those pets of yours. Took a page out of Bob Barker's book. That's enough, Elliot. And a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Butters, Councillor Kenny, all those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Have a wonderful week.